Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about the Genestealer cult known as the Hive Cult, one of the most popular Hive cults, or Genestealer cults I should say. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions, please comment down below, and if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. And stay to the end of the video because we have a special surprise for you guys. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Hive Cult. Spread throughout the many worlds of the Imperium of Man is an infection so corrosive and deceitful it is believed to have spread to the very core of humanity. This malignant threat is not derived from chaos, but rather the Great Devourer. Known as Genestealer cults, these Xeno-worshipping secret societies have plagued the Imperium since the 40th millennium. But no Genestealer cult has been as successful and widespread as the Hive Cult. This Genestealer cult has infiltrated the Segmentum Solar by not only corrupting the Underhive and the criminal enterprises that flourish so closely to Holy Terra, but it has managed to invade the Astra Militarum by implanting agents of the cult within the Imperial Guard regiments. This cult began on the world of New Gidlam, a hive world located on the outskirts of the Segmentum Solar. The Hive Cult is a prime example of a Genestealer invasion that spreads like wildfire across a densely populated Imperial planet. The planet in this case is New Gidlam, a hive world that has 13 ancient hive cities upon its pollution-blasted surface. Each of these vast man-made mountains harbors tens of billions of souls, and all but one have been conquered by the Hive Cult. Only Hive Tyranids holds out, its lesson learned at an expense of every population center. Even then, its lower levels are constantly besieged, and its future looks bleak indeed. The cult's emergence on New Gidlam began with a spat of ritual killings, a warlike Underhive family that sprang up around a brood of pure-strain Genestealers. These Xeno specimens were originally purchased from a self-appointed Xenozar known as Dionysus the Great Curator. They were later smuggled into the Hive City by a ganger looking for a secret weapon to use against his enemies. Brought swiftly into the sway by the Genestealer they called the First Father, the gangers went on a warpath and soon surpassed their rivals. Rather than traditional routes of infiltrating, kidnapping, blackmailing, and stealing from their enemies to grow slowly in the darkness, the cultists went straight for the throat. They slaughtered one rival gang after another, taking over large swaths of an area known as the Sump. The more dominant gangs that had established themselves in these lower levels saw what was happening and eventually put aside their differences to defend against the Hive Cult. But faced with the First Father and his sharp-eyed Genestealers who could squeeze through narrow pipes and swim across lakes of toxic spill to attack from unexpected angles, the gangers were overmatched. In the meantime, the aristocracy of the Hive City had been infected by the cult's savage ambition. Its magus, Vakor Mai, was at the center of this operation. He brought the ruling dynasties into line one by one, swaying them with his psychic influence and uncanny charisma. There was one, however, a rich hiver named Thorn, who habitually wore a helm of Xeno design, who did not fall to his wiles. In the hours of darkness, Vakor Mai shook off his robes and assassinated Thorn while he was in his bathhouse, cutting the dignitary's throat with a razor-sharp symbol of the cult and leaving it as his calling card. It was the first of many such killings, each part of a wider initiative to remove obstacles from Mai's path. Though often half seen in the darkness, he was never caught. With those first acts of killing, the urban myth of the White Creeper was born amongst the New Gidlam's aristocrats. When the cult grew large enough to spawn a neophyte hybrid assassin known as Sanctus, Vakor Mai baited the operative to go into the Hive Spire and kill those that were too psychically powerful to fall to his wiles. The legend of the White Creeper grew and spread from hive to hive, though in truth it was several individuals working in concert. Over time, gene sects were established in 12 out of the 13 ancient hive cities, but the spread of the cult did not stop there. New Gidlam's principal human exports, skilled roachworm silkers, and recruits for the Astra Militarum spread the infection of the Hive Cult from the outer worlds of the Segmentum Solar to its heartlands. With many Imperial Guard regiments recruiting from the gangers of these worlds, the Hive Cult spread even further. Hidden gang signs and electro-2s worn under the skin enabled those who owed allegiance to the new Gidlam dynasty to identify one another in secret and spread their creed in the endless solar hours of inactivity that typified life between engagements for the Astra Militarum units. The sheer vastness of the Astra Militarum and the desperate insanity of the wars they fought helped the Hive Cult to evade the suspicion of the Commissariat in nearly every conflict zone they infiltrated. Those who owed secret allegiance to the Hive Cult made for focused, disciplined Imperial soldiers, albeit on the strange side, but none looked too deeply into their history, for the lords of the Astra Militarum cared little about the native cultures from which their foot soldiers hailed. With the Imperial Guard boasting 1,000 different ethnicities, colors, and variant Imperial creeds amongst its numbers, it proved easy enough for the cult's neophyte hybrids and brood brothers to further their organization's wider agenda in secret. The Hive Cult's leaders prioritize warriors amongst their recruits, regardless of where they come from. Their logic is sound, for should a new recruit have access to a sword, a gun, or even better a tank, their contribution to the uprising will be all the more formidable on the day of ascension. If the entire cult is so armed and armored with the finest weapons the Imperium of Man can provide, it will overcome all before it in a spectacular surge of violence. Each gun stolen from its official home is worth 2 on the day of insurrection. When the Hive Cult would carry out an insurrection on a world, many of the in-system Astra Militarum regiments sent in to put down the uprising had already thousands of members bearing the worm form upon their skin. These agents of the cult betrayed their regiments from within, and with armored squadrons and even super heavy tanks turning to fight alongside the rising tide of the underworld, the Imperial Guard tasked with restoring order are often overcome in a matter of few bloody days. Sadly, those forces of the Sisters of Battle and the Adeptus Astartes fighting alongside them find themselves suddenly betrayed, and with the betrayal a long time in the planning, it is usually as lethal as it is sudden. The Hive Cult's chillingly effective manner of taking over territory has proven incredibly effective time and time again. Coordinated by gifted Nezzo strategists who marshal and distribute their faithful with military precision, they have endless ranks of soldiery marching to the beat of the First Father's drum. They have unparalleled access to warships, aerial assets, and methods of reaching the battle zone in which they flourish. More than that, with thousands of infected gangers working in the lower levels of Imperial metropolises to undermine the planet from bottom up, they can attack society at every level simultaneously. Some whisper that the Sol system itself has come under threat by the Hive Cult, for reports of their presence in the Segmentum Solar are becoming ever more common. The icon of the bladed worm form is carried by the Hive Cult's members, whether they be the brood brothers of the new Gidlam's Astra Militarum regiment, or the infected hive gangs themselves. So militarized is the cult that the icons themselves are weaponized, appearing in stylized form of knuckle dusters, throwing stars, or daggers. They are often used to slay those who stand in the cult's way, an act rich in symbolism that harkens back to the blue-blooded kills first started by the Magus Volker Mai. This icon has been spotted within the Sol system, and some rumors state that pilgrims bearing the Hive Cult sigil have been spotted on Holy Terra itself. But the cult still has a very long way to go before a full-scale insurrection can even be contemplated anywhere near the Sol system. The cult derives its power from the Imperial Guard regiments they've been able to infiltrate, but these regiments would never be sent to Terra. If anything, they would be sent to defend the planets on the boundaries of the Segmentum. The cult's best bet is to slowly invade the criminal underworld that exists within the system, but even then, the competition is extremely fierce. The Hive Cult will continue to spread its influence in the neighboring systems until it finds a breach into the Imperium's most well-protected planet. And those were 40 facts on the Hive Cult. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of our patrons that we can make videos. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's just $1 a month, and we really appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwan with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
To put my freedom first in any situation.